Appears that maybe the Cleveland Browns are finally getting some good news on the injury front. We're going to talk about that. Some matchups with the New York Giants. Your latest Locked On Browns begins now.
You are Locked On Browns, your daily Cleveland Browns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends, your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound LGB on the LOB, the Locked On Browns podcast, brought to the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Jeff Lloyd. We appreciate everybody who makes Locked On Browns their first listen every single day. The everyday crowd, the numbers keep going up and up. Make sure you don't miss out. Subscribe to Locked On Browns YouTube channel, become an everydayer, and get all the information firsthand. Show is always available. It is always free wherever you get your podcasts. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code all lowercase LockedOnNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. We've talked a lot in regards to the Browns getting some offensive line help back. And now what we've learned through the first 2 weeks of the regular season, Jack Conklin practicing out there regularly every day. The one thing that we have seen, though, it has been a limited participation, which is probably most likely why we ended up with Jack Conklin not playing week 1, also not playing week 2. But what we have now seen over the last 2 days is that Jack Conklin has been a full participant in practice. I'll go one of two ways. Jack Conklin makes his return this week against the New York Giants, which would be an optimal thing for the Cleveland Browns. Or it could also be if the old Joe Torre theory back in the day, whenever his players were banged up and a player came to him on a day and said, "Skip, I'm good, I'm ready to go, put me back in the lineup," Joe Torre would say to him, "That's fantastic. Have a nice seat on the bench. You'll be in the lineup tomorrow. I don't want to make sure. I want to be super sure." I don't think the Cleveland Browns are going to have that luxury with Jack Conklin. I think if Jack Conklin is, in fact, strings together 3 full practices, Jack Conklin will return to the starting lineup on Sunday against the New York Giants. For the rest of the injury report from today for the Cleveland Browns, and it's lengthy, and I know a lot of people are getting nervous about that. And I do. I'm just wondering if maybe the Cleveland Browns are just being a tad bit more honest about their injury report than everybody else. Little ding of an ankle and a shoulder. We know Martin Emerson got dinged up a little bit last week. Martin Emerson, 2 full practices in a row, not concerned there. Myles Garrett has not practiced the last 2 days. This is something that I expect to continue. Myles is to that point of his career where game day is all that matters. So, Myles most likely should be out there tomorrow, which means you'll have him in the lineup. Charlie Hewlett, been limited most of the year, obviously, to this point, but you expect him back out there. DeJuan Jones did not practice yesterday, back to practice today in a limited capacity. Jerry Jeudy, a little bit of a knee. He's had 2 full straight practices. David Njoku has not practiced either day. Coach told us early in the week he did not expect David to be back. Kind of teased it on Monday, and then Wednesday we got a little bit more of the reality of it. JOK with the hand, he's still fine. He's practiced 2 days in a row. Zadarius Smith has been limited 2 days in a row. Zadarius is up in his 30s. Totally makes sense. Pierre Strong, hamstring injury, has not practiced the last 2 days. Could mean a chance that Gary Brightwell comes up from the practice squad, or newly signed Royce Freeman comes up from the practice squad. Cleveland Browns right now would only have 2 guys ready to go at the running back position on Sunday. James Thrash was sick yesterday, back at practice, did do some working out today. Limited for Deshaun Watson, Denzel Ward, 11 snaps on Sunday with the shoulder injury. And good for Denzel Ward being honest about it. Hey, I think I'm a little dinged up. I might have a problem tackling today. Good for being honest. So many guys are out there dinged up and stay out there and end up eventually hurting their team. Limited practices for Jedrick Wills, which means, in my opinion, if he is not full by now, but he is definitely out for this week. Alex Wright, it is a little bit of a tricep and a little bit of elbow, but he's been out there both days limited. Totally count on number 91, Alex Wright, being ready to go for Sunday. Rookie linebacker who has played in the first 2 games, Boogie Watson, was released today. This smells and reeks a little bit more of some roster gymnastics. Browns have several linebackers on the practice squad that can at least come up and play Sunday. This seems more of a, roster gymnastics, something that's been going on. And then, Buki will probably be brought late tomorrow, Saturday, back to the practice squad. Browns want to keep him. I will say this, though. The Browns and Andrew Berry, you got to be careful with this. You're not going to get away with this every week. Eventually, somebody's going to snipe. And, they're going to snipe a player. So, look, again, I appreciate the creativity. I appreciate and admire, doing all you can to get yourself the best 53 you can for every single game day. But eventually, this is going to blow up in your face. Eventually, they're going to lose a player, by doing this. So they have to be cognizant of that fact. Yes, again, Royce Freeman signed the last couple of days, veteran running back. He's been around the league. Carolina, of course. Denver have been around the league, former Oregon Duck. Pierre Strong, and with the hamstring injury, and I've talked about this. I've always been a champion of Pierre Strong. The overall God-given physical abilities, the speed, the size. He's got long arms. Everything about Pierre Strong looks like he is a player. It's just not really coming together. He's a great player in open space. He does have problems at times fumbling the ball. And the thing I like about Pierre Strong is he does a little bit of everything. He can catch the ball in the backfield. He can run a little bit. He can help you in the kick return game. But the problem is it's just not consistent. He gets hit, he goes down. A lot of times when he gets hit, he goes down, and most of the time he calls the ball up. It's becoming really, really hard to see a path where Pierre Strong is going to be with this team much longer, especially with the possibility of two running backs, not one, but two running backs coming back to the 53-man roster, within 2 weeks, and Naheem Hines and possibly Nick Chubb. Gary Brightwell, physical back. He, ironically enough, a former New York Giant. So for Gary Brightwell, a nice opportunity here if he does get to go on Sunday. Runs hard, runs like his hair's on fire. If you remember Chris Ivory back in the day, played for the Saints, played for the New York Jets. Gary Brightwell's kind of got that type of makeup. Granted, I'm not going to put him on Chris Ivory's level. Chris Ivory had some really, really nice play for a couple of years for those teams. But just one of those guys, a thumper, a big physical guy. And I'll be honest, he's probably capable of getting, the 3 yards per carry that Dante Foreman is right now, if not more. So certainly something to look for Cleveland as the week goes on here. Look, Pierre Strong, if you're out on Thursday with a hamstring injury, there's no way you're going to be back to do enough on Friday. That's going to warrant anybody putting you in the lineup on Sunday. So, at the end of the day, it's the third string running back. And right now he's, third string running back with an asterisk, as the Browns are expecting more talent to come into the building and, within the coming weeks. It was a move they made, last year in the summer. Pierre did a couple of nice things, had a huge game last year against the Seattle Seahawks on the road. But it's just coming where it's kind of getting, you can see the end is near for Pierre Strong. Probably going to end up moving on to another team here. Browns, I would say, starting to look healthy, getting better to where they need to be. And, hopefully that'll, cultivate, manifest itself into a big effort from this unit on Sunday. We're going to talk Browns offense, Giants defense through 2 weeks. We'll talk some Giants offense, Browns defense through 2 weeks. Your latest Locked On Browns continues. Don't anybody go anywhere. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 5% average per year on uninvested cash, receive unlimited 1% deposit bonuses, and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on an IRA account. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply. For product-specific disclosures at robinhood.com/gold, investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood LLC. You've heard us talk a ton over the years about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Well, we have something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, so act fast. It's going away soon. All FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel at any time. Just visit FanDuel.com. Download America's #1 sportsbook. We continue on here, your latest Locked On Browns. I'm your host, Jeff Lloyd. As always, we appreciate all of you who make Locked On Browns their very first listen every single day. The everyday crowd you do not want to miss out. So if you're not a part of it, make a new plan, stand, subscribe to the Locked On Browns YouTube channel. Show is always available. It is always free wherever you get your podcasts. Now, looking at the New York Giants coming in here 0-2. Pretty much whitewashed week 1 at home against the Minnesota Vikings. 28-6, I believe, was the final. Last week, 21-18 losers down in Washington. As I told you, the Washington Commanders, this is the team I'm happy are on the Browns schedule earlier as opposed to later. I think this team under Dan Quinn with Jaden Daniels, this team is going to improve as the season goes on. And I think they're going to end up surprising some people by the time the 2024 season ends. Now, the Giants defense has kind of had their issues. First off, they're having issues stopping the run. Aaron Jones didn't play a lot week 1 for Minnesota, but I think he put up 14 for 67. They ran for well over 4 yards per carry. Last week, Brian Robinson of the Washington Commanders, I think 17 for 133, hit him a clip of 7.9. Jaden Daniels with his mobility was a little bit of an issue, although the safeties for the Giants really played well in that game. The pass defense, and it's really hard to judge any team's pass defense right now. The passing game as a whole over the NFL right now are historically low. It's just a fact. It's just the way it is right now. But they gave up certainly the best passing performance of Jaden Daniels' career. Sam Darnold lit him up pretty good. Both those guys were well over 200 yards, and it seems odd to say 200 yards, I guess, is a decent passing performance. Mel Kiper Jr., there's 2 high safeties. It's killing the league. And find a running back that can run up the middle and get 5 yards a pop, and then all of a sudden people will start creeping safeties into the box. The whole point of that conversation is you're trying to take away what is the biggest threat. And if teams can beat you vertically, yeah, maybe you want to go cover 2, but it doesn't mean you can stop it altogether. I mean, you're trying to take away digs, you're trying to take away crossers. You can still run 9 routes on the sidelines. You can still run posts. I mean, there's a lot you can do. But look, there's always the NFL, and if something works, everybody jumps on it. And cover 2 is still being played less than cover 3 or quarters, which would be known as cover 4. That's still being played less. But, the way the NFL is, it is a copycat league. Everybody sees something work for somebody. Everybody else tries to replicate it, duplicate it, et cetera, et cetera. Now, with getting Jack Conklin back, and, if you guys saw the episode dropped earlier with John Costco, the one thing with getting Jack Conklin back is you're hoping that there's going to be some improvement here to the run game. Look, Jerome Ford, a nice week last week. Yeah, but if you take out the 4th and inches, basically the fake from where everybody in the building thought it was going to be Jameis to Jerome Ford going around the end, that's great. But that also padded the Jerome Ford stats. You guys know I'm a Jerome Ford guy. It's just not been there yet in sync. And it's not all on Jerome. An offensive line and a running attack and a running back, it's all got to play together like a band. And if any part of it is missing, it is going to not go very well. So if the running back is not playing the best of his abilities, it's going to be an issue. If the running back, there is just, it all needs to be in phase. And I think, with the Browns, James Hudson, one thing he does is decently run block, but it's not going to cover the other warts. But getting Jack here, and I'm not expecting this offensive line to just go back to what the expectation has been for the first 4 years of the Barry and Stefanski regime, where this offensive line has been year in, for the first 3. Now, listen, I say 3, obviously a lot of injuries last year. First 3 years of this regime, this offensive line was top 5 year in, year out. You could just set your watch by it. You knew it was going to happen. But you have now different concerns than we certainly had last year. Concerns this year on the interior. Joe Bitonio, Ethan Posick, Wyatt Teller's actually been pretty close to the standard for himself, only allowed 1 pressure at this point. But they all need to work in a group. And, it's Dexter Lawrence. Dexter Lawrence is one of the meanest, baddest, mamma-jamma defensive tackles in the entire NFL. And I will admit it, many Giants fans out there watching this, I was wrong. Dexter Lawrence did not have much production in Clemson. It was a major question and concern for me. And if you do remember, Dexter Lawrence was part of the draft compensation for one Odell Beckham Jr. But Dexter Lawrence is a force. So, for a lot of people who are wondering what's with Joel, and Joel hasn't played up to the best of his abilities. Look, Joel is not a spring chicken. He's run blocking well. And usually for an offensive lineman, even if you're dinged up, your run blocking is usually not the issue. You know what's coming. The defense does not. It usually shows, and if anything's going on with you, it'll always show in pass pro. So, you have for Joel, it's been an issue. And I think it's 7, 8 pressures to this point, maybe even 10. He's having problems in pass pro. It could be numerous things. It could be a calf, could be hamstring, could be lower back. There are several things. And Joel is a consummate professional, and he will never use anything as an excuse. So whether or not he's 100% out there, we don't know. Is it maybe just takes a while to get the engine going at this point in Joel Bitonio's career? Certainly possible. Ethan Posick, it's been a little bit of a drop back, from what Ethan has showed us and done for us in the first 2 years here with Cleveland. I anticipate that play is probably going to pick up. I do anticipate as a whole, I think that the fact that the Browns never really got any legit work in as far as a first unit of an offensive line, that is certainly a cause to understand why maybe this unit is not playing to the best of their abilities. But it's something you got to watch and something you got to unpack. DeJuan Jones has been fantastic to this point. And again, I'll keep saying, it doesn't matter, if Conklin comes back and Wills comes back, the Browns are not moving DeJuan Jones in any way whatsoever. DeJuan Jones is on the path. The Browns are going to have an opportunity to save some money by having DeJuan Jones on a rookie contract, being a solid right tackle for them. It's a situation that worked out really well for this team. DeJuan, it was a knee last week and maybe some cramping, dehydration, big guy, obviously out in that heat. And we're always going to have these conversations with DeJuan when a guy is just that monster of a human being. There's going to be every now and then some dings, some nicks, some bruises. It's understandable. But if you're the Browns, you just keep going to the passing game. You think Amari Cooper and you also think Elijah Moore are not going to continue to drop the passes at the rate they are going to. Amari Cooper is going to get right. My guess is Amari Cooper is going to get right this week. I'm thinking like a 5 for 70 for Amari Cooper this week. Get Jerry Jeudy more involved. Keep feeding the young man. I think Jerry Jeudy's confidence right now is sky high. I think Jerry Jeudy is in such a great place, knowing what he left in Denver, where there was a lot of disbelief about his abilities, and it's starting to come to fruition for him, and he's kind of starting to feeling it. And all of a sudden, once that confidence level gets growing again inside a player, throw me the ball, throw me the ball, throw me the ball, throw me the ball. The other question is going to be is, how do you deal? I mean, it's not a major loss, certainly, without David Bell here, but 9 snaps last week, 3 receptions. Who can be that underneath slot guy? Could it be a Jamari Thrash? Who else is going to fit that bill? Because, most everybody else, you don't really want Elijah under there, and you don't certainly have David Njoku to work underneath this week. So who's going to fill that underneath really slot wide receiver slot routes? Who's going to be that guy this week? Maybe you just get lucky and you hit a bunch of verticals and you don't have to worry about it. But, David Bell had a role with this team, and David Bell not going to be here this week certainly is going to be, a little bit of an issue. So, hey, is it Jamari Thrash? If it is, go ahead. Young man, go get it. Your opportunity's there. I think Jamari Thrash is ready, but it's just a question of, taking some reps away from other people. Maybe with David Bell now being out for the year, maybe that is a situation that basically resolved itself. Who knows? Maybe you get a Prochet, goes in there and gets some routes. It's going to be certainly interesting to watch who, gets those, extra wide receiver routes, extra wide receiver reps this week for the Browns. We're going to continue it up here. We're going to talk a little about the New York Giants offense, what to expect from the Cleveland Browns defense. Your latest Locked On Browns rolls on. Everybody stick around. PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps, on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less than on a 2 to 6 player stat projection, and you can watch your winnings roll in. You can put a simple bet down right now on Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams passing yard gets you 1 win on PrizePicks every week in September. That's right. Only 1 yard gets you an automatic win every football weekend in September. 4 weeks of free W's. Don't miss this deal on PrizePicks because it's gone when September ends. You want to play PrizePicks alongside Drewski, Joe Budden, and MMA champ Sugar Sean O'Malley? You can now find community plays under the promos tab of the app to view entries from some of the biggest names in the PrizePicks community each and every week. PrizePicks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my pick hits, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. PrizePicks invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. Go to prizepicks.com and go to the PrizePicks app today and use the code LOCKEDONNFL and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONNFL on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. Closing out your latest Locked On Browns. As always, we appreciate you all for making the show your first listen every single day. If you were not an everydayer by now, make a new plan, subscribe to Locked On Browns YouTube channel. The show is always available. It is always free wherever you get your podcast. The Giants didn't run the ball at all week 1 against the Minnesota Vikings. The Giants did run the ball pretty well against the Washington Commanders week 2. Now, here is the thing. I don't think either the Minnesota Vikings defense or the Washington Commanders defense is on par level with the Cleveland Browns. So if I am Cleveland, I am trying to take away the run. Devin Singletary is the main bell cow for the New York Giants right now. As we all know, that was a name we bountied about a lot during the offseason, during free agency. He was going to be a guy that maybe the Cleveland Browns had interest. Went to New York, had a nice week 2, didn't really do much week 1. Daniel Jones, through 2 games, has been sacked 6 times, 0 interceptions against the Commanders, but did throw 2 interceptions week 1 against the Minnesota Vikings. Daniel Jones, it was a colossal mistake by the New York Giants to extend him at the money they did. I think they fell in love with a nice run that Daniel Jones put together to end the regular season 2 years ago and then get them a playoff win in Minnesota 2 years ago. And maybe they just felt that, that was going to be the launching point for his career. He stares down wide receivers. He throws wildly at times. He has good mobility, which is something the Browns are going to have to watch for this week. Certainly better mobility than either of the quarterbacks the Browns have faced this point. So that is something you're going to have to keep your eyes on. He knows when to use his legs, and when he does use his legs, he actually uses them to pretty good success. But this is, you want to talk about it, an offense that is probably, after what the Browns did last week and Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars, and now that you're going to be playing the New York Giants at home, this is one that should be right for the picking, man. The Giants' offensive line isn't bad. Andrew Thomas is a nice player. A couple other players on that offensive line are nice players. But this is one where the Cleveland Browns should just kind of go out and kind of have their way with these guys. You kind of know what's coming. You shouldn't have much fear of the run. You should actually commit to the run and get yourself in the situations where you can just let the dogs go after Daniel Jones, let you guys play man coverage. Malik Neighbors is going to be a fantastic player in this league. 10 reception, 128 yards, 1 touchdown last week against the Washington Commanders. But you're throwing almost 70% of your targets to this young man. So what is this going to do? And what are you going to do when the young man's going to have to take reps against Denzel Ward, who's one of the top corners in the NFL, against the guy who's got supreme physicality and just absolute nastiness and toughness around the line of scrimmage, and Martin Emerson, Greg Newsome? The Browns can throw so many looks at Malik Neighbors. It's going to be difficult for Malik Neighbors, certainly going to be difficult for Daniel Jones, who has his vision issues and all these other things, as it is. So you really, if you're the Giants, if you're the Browns, you just need to stay within your game. You need to play your game, know who you are, stick to what you are, because this is a team that is very beatable. And when I say beatable, I don't mean beatable. I mean beat downable. It really is. They lost by a handful at home to the Minnesota Vikings. Maybe they should have won last week against the Commanders. Maybe. I don't know. And I know Giants fans are crying about this. You lost. At the end of the day, you lost. So I don't want to, if you couldn't beat the Commanders convincingly this early in the Quinn Daniels era, it's going to be a problem to beat this team from here on out. I think the New York Giants are a bad football team. I think the New York Giants are going to be playing out the string really soon, and they're going to be in competition for all the top quarterbacks next spring, and we'll see how that works out for them. But this is a game where the Browns should just go out and show some dominance and maybe get that. We always talk batting practice, ding ding. This is one where the Browns should get hopefully a batting practice feel for them, get themselves back to 2-1, and start to understand that maybe the work they're putting in is leading to success, with some bodies hopefully coming back to the locker room. There's a lot of talent that ain't there yet for the Browns, whether they're on the field not performing, or they're just not back in the building yet. Once these guys start to come in, once these guys, Amari Cooper, start to play more like themselves, Browns is just going to be an absolutely formidable football team that should put together a bunch of W's. So your highlights of the day: Jack Conklin has strung together 2 full practices. That's big time. I said until I saw full, I ain't going to expect Jack Conklin to be a player. Now, with 2 full together, starting to look at the expectation is real that Jack Conklin will return to the Cleveland Browns lineup Sunday against the New York Giants. Pierre Strong, 2 straight missed practices. Gary Brightwell, Royce Freeman, most likely one of those is going to make their Cleveland Brown debut Sunday against the New York Giants. Bouquet Watson has been released. The theory is it's just roster gymnastics. The Browns are trying to put together their best 53 for this Sunday, and that Buki will be back either late Friday or Saturday to the practice squad. Again, it's a dangerous roll of the dice. Eventually, this is going to cost them a player. But, if you're truly putting these guys out there, you have to understand there's a chance that they are not going to come back. It is not a slam dunk 100% guarantee. So that means they were close enough, fringe enough that you were going to roll the dice anyway. So we got into a lot here. We will still get you a pregame show tomorrow. I'm hoping for an official word that we're getting the return of Jack Conklin. I think Conklin gets in there. I think that offensive line is going to start to look a lot more like we expect it to look. And God knows Dickerson could really use that offensive line to get back intact. I am Jeff Lloyd. I appreciate everybody who makes the show their first listen every single day. The everyday crowd is a bunch of filthy animals, but they're my filthy animals. I suggest you join the filthy animals and subscribe to Locked On Browns YouTube channel. The show is always available. It is always free wherever you get your podcasts. This has been your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound. LGB on ELOB. Let's go Browns.